The morning sun shined through the glass walls of the Grand Royal Hotel in New York. Every day, before the guests arrived, a quiet janitor named Daniel cleaned the marble floors. Most people walked past him without saying a word. Some never even looked at his face. Daniel worked 2 jobs just to feed his wife and 2 young children. Life was hard, but he had one rule. No matter how poor I am, I will always be honest. That morning looked like every other morning, until one small mistake changed everything. A wealthy businessman rushed into the hotel while talking on his phone. He looked worried. In his hand was a black leather bag. As he entered the elevator, the bag quietly slipped from his hand. No one noticed, except Daniel. Daniel slowly walked toward the bag. He looked around. The lobby was empty. He opened the bag just enough to find the owner's information. Instead, he froze. The bag was completely filled with bundles of cash. There had to be at least $100,000. His hands started shaking. At that exact moment, his phone rang. It was his wife. Her voice sounded scared. "Daniel, the hospital called again. They said we must pay for Emma's surgery this week." Daniel closed his eyes. His little daughter had been waiting for that surgery for months. He looked at the money again. One decision could change his family's life forever. Nobody was watching. No cameras seemed to be pointing toward him. No one would ever know. For a few seconds, temptation filled his heart. Then he remembered the promise he made to his father years ago. Money can buy comfort, but it can never buy a clean conscience. Daniel took a deep breath. He picked up the bag, not to keep it, but to return it. Little did he know that someone had already been secretly watching everything. Daniel held the black bag tightly and walked toward the hotel manager's office. His heart was beating fast. Every step felt heavier than the last. Before he reached the office, 2 security guards rushed toward him. "Sir, stop right there!" Daniel froze. One guard pointed at the bag. "Where did you get that?" Daniel stayed calm. "I found it in the lobby. I was taking it to the manager." The guards looked at each other. One of them didn't believe him. "Open the bag." Daniel slowly placed it on a table. The guard opened it. Everyone in the room gasped. The bag was filled with stacks of cash. Just then, the hotel manager entered the room. "What is going on here?" One guard quickly explained everything. The manager looked at Daniel. "I've known Daniel for 6 years. He's one of the most honest people working here." A few minutes later, the businessman ran back into the hotel. He looked terrified. "My bag! Please tell me someone found my bag." The manager smiled. "Can you describe it?" "It's a black leather bag with an important business contract and $100,000 in cash." The manager pointed toward Daniel. "This man found it." The businessman rushed over. With shaking hands, he opened the bag. Every dollar was still inside. Nothing was missing. For a few seconds, he couldn't speak. Finally, he looked at Daniel. "You could have taken everything." Daniel smiled gently. "It wasn't mine." The businessman felt tears in his eyes. He had spent his whole life believing that honest people no longer existed. But standing in front of him was living proof that they still did. He shook Daniel's hand and quietly said, "You have no idea how much you've changed my life today." Daniel simply smiled. He thought the story had ended. He was wrong. The biggest surprise was only beginning. The businessman introduced himself. "My name is Michael Anderson." He was the owner of one of the biggest construction companies in the city. Before leaving the hotel, he quietly asked the manager about Daniel. "Tell me about him." The manager smiled. "Daniel has worked here for 6 years. He has never taken anything that didn't belong to him. He is always the first to arrive and the last to leave. But life hasn't been easy for him." The manager lowered his voice. "His little daughter needs heart surgery. The family cannot afford the hospital bill." Michael stood silent. He looked through the office window. Daniel was already back to cleaning the lobby, as if nothing had happened. He wasn't asking for a reward. He wasn't expecting praise. He had simply done the right thing. That night, Michael couldn't stop thinking about Daniel. He remembered all the people who had lied to him for money. Yet the poorest man he had met that day had shown the greatest honesty. The next morning, Michael returned to the hotel. This time he wasn't carrying a bag of money. He was carrying something much more valuable. An envelope. Inside was a letter and a hospital payment receipt. Michael walked up to Daniel with a warm smile. "I have a small gift for you." Daniel looked confused. "You don't owe me anything, sir." Michael handed him the envelope. "Please open it." Daniel slowly opened it. His hands began to shake. His eyes filled with tears. The hospital bill for his daughter's surgery had been paid in full. Daniel couldn't believe what he was seeing. He looked at Michael. "Why would you do this for me?" Michael smiled. "Because honesty like yours deserves more than just a thank you. But this is only the beginning." Daniel had no idea that an even bigger surprise was waiting for him. Daniel could not hold back his tears. He looked at Michael and whispered, "Thank you. You saved my daughter's life." A few days later, Emma's surgery was successful. The doctor smiled. "She is going to be okay." For the first time in months, Daniel and his wife cried tears of joy. But Michael had one more surprise. A week later, he invited Daniel to his company. Daniel thought he was only going to say thank you one last time. Instead, Michael handed him another envelope. "I don't just want to reward your honesty," Michael said. "I want you to build a better future for your family." Inside the envelope was a full-time job offer. The salary was 3 times higher than Daniel's old job. It included health insurance, paid vacation, and education support for his children. Daniel was speechless. "I don't have the experience for this job." Michael smiled. "I can teach skills, but I cannot teach honesty. That is something you already have." Months passed. Daniel's family moved into a small but beautiful new home. Emma returned to school with a healthy heart and a bright smile. Daniel never forgot where he came from. Every weekend he visited shelters and donated food to families in need. One act of honesty had created a chain of kindness that changed many lives. As for Michael, he began hiring people based not only on experience, but also on character. Years later, people still talked about the janitor who returned a bag with $100,000. Not because of the money, but because one honest decision proved that integrity is more valuable than wealth. Remember this: you may lose money, you may lose opportunities, but if you never lose your honesty, you will always keep the most valuable thing in life: your character. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone you love. One small act of kindness can change a life forever.